We are an old organization that used to be called the World Development Movement. And I changed the name because it is quite an antiquated name. But our organization goes back to 1970. And it comes precisely out of that moment where countries were winning their freedom from empire, and recognized that having become politically independent, they didn't really have any economic dependence because of the terms of trade, the economic integration of the economy. And so the non-aligned movement was going to the United Nations and arguing for new international economic world order. And we were set up to express solidarity.
To kind of combat this.
Yeah. And to point out to people, because that was a time as well, remember, where charities couldn't really do political work. I mean, they can do more campaign. Oxfam, Christian Aid, they all do campaigning now. But at that time, they weren't really allowed to. And so we were set up not as a charity in order to explicitly say, you can't hope to fight this poverty you're talking about without engaging in political work, because it is political. Poverty is political. So we were able to do some of the campaigning stuff, as others did. It wasn't just my organization. So I've been there about 10 years, but I've for a very long time, I've done stuff like this.
So global justice now seems quite of like the name itself. It's
very direct.
Yeah, it's very direct, but also very broad. It's like global everything, justice now.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you guys focus on, and how do you choose what to focus on?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I would say if there's one thing that holds us together as an organization, it is this central idea that the rules and the institutions of the global economy are responsible for perpetuating many of the problems we face in the world today, from poverty to inequality to conflict to climate change. And so unless we change those rules, unless we either defeat or radically transform those institutions, it's going to be very difficult. Right? You can give some charity, you can give some help here or there, but it's endless, because the problem is recycling itself all the time and getting worse, actually. So what we try to do is but of course the global economy is big, abstract, seems a long, long way from your life. So the art really of campaigning is, I think, to find those issues which can connect to people in our own society, but which through trying to make this change here actually provoke a broader understanding of the problem.
Yeah.
And hopefully, therefore, take people on a journey to something else. So in COVID, we started working on vaccines and that in the hope that would take people on a journey to understand the problems of the intellectual property system and how colonial that is in the way that it operates, and bad for us as well. Previously we've worked on trade deals, like the trade deal between the UK and the US that was under negotiation under the last Trump administration.
The TTIP.
And before that with the EU, yes, the TTIP. Because through explaining to people, well, this trade deal is going to make a difference to the type of food you eat, right? Chlorine chicken and all the rest, and to your public services.
Hormone-filled beef.
Absolutely. This gives you an idea of how the trade system works. And it isn't simply about trading off tariffs against one another, right? It gets into our lives in many, many ways. And so you then begin to build a trade justice movement from defeating, and especially if you can win, because if you can win, people get a tremendous, it's good in itself, but people get a tremendous buzz that makes them see activism can work. So TTIP was really important because so many people came into campaigning through that.
Yeah.
And then started getting interested in all other bits of the trade system and how you can. So that's what we try and do, essentially. And as I say, I don't think there's a science to it. I think there's stuff you learn as you go along, but there's stuff other people do that I don't think is going to work at all, and it does. And vice versa, it's like the stuff that you think is a sure certainty and it doesn't work. So
one issue can kind of be a tool or a vehicle to show people, get people to be passionate or to campaign against other issues. Okay, that's quite interesting.
I think so. And I think you can do it with local issues. I mean, we don't, but I think you can. You can get people engaged in, an issue on their own housing estate or, around some green space in their local area or whatever it is. And through engaging them in a process of campaigning, bringing them together, getting them to think and act more collectively, they can win and change something. And that hopefully feeds their appetite
Mm.
for a bit more change. Because I think so many of us, you feel so isolated in society today. You feel so powerless. It's not an accident, right? I actually think we're supposed to feel powerless, and that's part of what the kind of individualistic arc that we've been on over the last 30, 40 years is all about. If you can break that, you've done something really precious for people. And frankly, at that point, it doesn't matter to me. It's very nice if they're still a member of Global Justice now, but if they want to go off and do something else to change something, fantastic, right? It's that process of getting people to be an activist is as important as any of the issues that we're working on at any one time.